Good morning, this is Distracted Beam and this is my desktop. You can see on the left is my primary monitor and on the right is my secondary monitor. In a typical day I would start up a game and a few mandatory programs and try to arrange them in a way where I can see everything. But Windows 10 was trying to sell this concept that you can split a monitor and make one window into multiple usable spaces, and I thought that was great. Except that when I started looking at it, I saw that everybody that was using it was trying to sell it for things like email and viewing web pages and text-based stuff. And that's okay, it's just that for people like me that want to use actual media, it's mostly useless. There's a lot of inefficient use of space. So if you are a gamer like me, then you're going to know that almost every type of media wants to take up your entire screen. So if you're playing a game, the game wants to go full screen. If you want to watch a movie, the movie wants to go full screen. You can cut that down, but if you do, it's going to have borders, it's going to have a lot of wasted space. So that's why I use two monitors. With the two monitors set up, I can play a game, I can watch a movie, I can play a game and manage a guild, I can watch a movie and make a movie. It makes the content a lot more efficient. Now the only reason I don't like it is because when I'm playing a graphic intensive game, something like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto, then the video card is trying to render that, and it's also trying to render my secondary monitor, which it doesn't need to. I've got all my attention on the primary monitor, but it's still trying to render an extra 1280 by 768 for that second monitor, and that's using up RAM that it could be using for rendering textures on the primary. It's not much of a drag, but it's enough that it makes me think, boy, I could have just like 1 or 2 more FPS if I wasn't rendering that other monitor. A few years ago, I took over the living room TV to use as a monitor, and I found that it was so big that I could not see the entire screen at once. If you've got a smaller screen, you can see all the corners and the center, you can see things coming from the left and right. It's a lot easier to see the entire screen at once. But when you have a large TV, your eyes have to move quite a bit more in order to see all the details. Now, it's okay for some games where it's just telling a story through its visuals, but for games that are data intensive, that'll actually make my eyes hurt. The concept was to take one large TV and emulate different monitors. That way I wouldn't need a second monitor. Now, if I was playing a game that was basic, I could just blow it up and take up the entire screen. But if I was playing a more data-intensive game, I could shrink it down and play a movie on the side, or just put my data elsewhere so that I could see it, but would never have to be rendering that extra monitor. Now, Microsoft, I don't care how pretty you make your start bar look. What I'm looking for is utility. Give me something that will actually enhance the way I create or consume my media. That's what I'm looking for. Now, it's not all Microsoft. There's a lot of developers that could be using this concept and making it work. For Windows 10, you can take a screen, drag it up to a corner, and create a quarter screen. And if you go to YouTube and you play a video, it's going to have all the borders on it, and if you hit the full screen, then it's of course going to try and take over the entire screen. But if you could take that YouTube video and blow it up so it only takes up the borders of the browser, then that part would already be solved. But the ability to emulate multiple monitors on one monitor would be a really big deal. People are starting now to use 4K monitors, and that's 3840 by 2160. If you do the math, that's exactly double the pixel height and double the pixel width of a 1920 by 1080 monitor, which would in fact give you 4 1080 monitors within one 4K monitor, which means that somebody like me that games in 1080 could use 1/4 of the screen without any loss whatsoever. Emulation will be especially important in older games where windowed mode isn't even an option. But that's not to say emulation would make it just flat out work, because even with 2 physical monitors, there's problems right now. There's a concept I first heard on Tech Syndicate that the most efficient way to proceed is with cheap hardware and brilliant software. If you want to impress me, then make that happen.